You are now locked in and listening to The Issue.
This guy is a franchise quarterback, and no, I don't want to hear any pushback on that.
It feels like a top 10 roster to me. It feels like it can win a championship.
This is The Issue.
Yo, what's up? We are back. It is The Issue. It is Thursday, February 2nd. Into February, going into the Super Bowl now. So we have this week, we're not going to have any predictions.
It's going to be really
next
weird.
Week, it is going to be weird. The first time in 20-some weeks with no predictions.
Well, even more than that, because also you have to remember we also had our divisional predictions.
Right. So that was like 8 weeks prior to the season starting.
And then we had 16 weeks.
Yeah, of 17.
18.
18
plus
weeks
all the
of
predictions. So 18 plus 8 is what, 24?
Something around that,
plus wild card divisional championship. 27? Is that right?
A lot of weeks straight of predicting. This is the first show that we're not going to have anything prediction-wise, but we will have that next week leading into the Super Bowl. Other than that, great show though. So we're gonna have a very rant discussion-based show today. A lot of big topics. So first, we're gonna start with yours on Cincinnati and Kansas City. Right? I feel like that was the spotlight of the league this week. I think that's where all the eyes were. It got flexed to prime time for a reason, right? It got put into that later window because there were going to be more eyes on that game. The NFL knew that. Everybody knew that.
I want to say it was the most watched championship game divisional, like an NFC or AFC championship game, conference championship game in 5-6 years.
It was just so interesting. So many stories on both sides.
It's pretty impressive.
So, like I said, we'll start the show with that today. We'll get into hits and misses like normal to finish up the first segment. And then in the second segment, we're going to actually have a ranking, a list, the top 10 players in the Super Bowl. So we're going to go both teams. It doesn't have to be evenly stacked on each side. We're just the 10 best players and who we think will have the biggest impact. And I guess we will give you maybe a predicted Super Bowl MVP, stuff like that. And then we will have another rant. 49ers and Brady are kind of heating up. San Francisco looks like they could definitely use him. I don't think anybody expected them to get to Josh Johnson, right?
Right, and plus, it'd be also different if Purdy. Again, we'll talk about it later, but it'd be different if Purdy was out for 2 months, right? And he could be there for the entire offseason. Then you have to think, no, he's out for 6, 7, 8 months, right? So you're talking almost the entire offseason, maybe into the next season. So it's
yeah. And then, like that Cincinnati game, we flexed the news to the third segment this week. So we will start the third segment with that and then finish off with a rant on Sean Payton going to the Denver Broncos. Big story, kind of a big splash that I think Denver needed, but we will get to that to finish the show. But first, we have the most pressing issues to talk about first. We have Burrow and the Bengals, all the blown calls, bad calls that people were all kind of heated up about. We have our take on that, so get started there.
I mean, like I said, we'll get to the Niners-Eagles. That game pretty much sucked. Not entertaining at all. Awful watch. But the other game, though, like you said, the Burrow-Mahomes, right, that may have been an all-time classic, right? So here's how you know if you have an all-time classic playoff game. Do you have two really clever offenses? Yep, check. Right? How about two underrated defenses playing well? Yep, check. You got both those. How about two fantastic quarterbacks kind of at the top of their game going into that football game? Yeah, check. Yet people still want to blame the refs for the outcome. Check. No, I mean, seriously, that's a mark of a really, really good playoff game. You'd think I'm crazy. Right, go back to the Brady-Belichick dynasty. No, trust me, as a Pittsburgh fan, I was right there with you. That, is it just me or does Brady get, all the calls? Or do they get all the convenient calls and no calls, right? Does everything go the Patriots' way? So, that was always a discussion for, 15 years. Well, it's a dynasty and a really, really good football team. Right? It wasn't because, they got the best calls. Sometimes, they got some good calls. No, they just had the best coach quarterback for 15 years. Right? That's kind of the mark of a really good dynasty, really good playoff game, really good playoff run, right? So now we look back and we go, that's kind of what we're looking at right here, right? And the refs weren't perfect. Okay, I get it. And they never are, really. But there's 22 players running to close to or over 20 miles an hour on every play, crashing into each other. Right? Footwork going a million miles an hour. Have you seen Aaron Donald? By the way, he's 300 pounds. Can't see his feet when he's moving them. Right? Because he's so quick. But no, you're right. The refs, while watching him and 21 other professional athletes, need to catch every little thing. Right? If they called a penalty on every play, the game would be, what, like 6.5 hours long? It's a TV product. Right? The reason Mahomes is getting 50-some million a year, the reason Burrow's going to garner roughly the same amount, the reason that they can afford to be paid that much is because Fox is shelling out billions of dollars. Because CBS is paying a couple bill. Right? That's kind of how it works. And so, I get you're upset. Right? I've been there, right? The Jesse James catch against the Patriots. Yeah. That's a catch. Like, that is 100% a catch. But let's not act like those were they really a better overall team than the Patriots in the height of the Patriots dynasty? Not really.
No.
Right? Maybe on that given Sunday, but it's not like it was an injustice to the world that probably the better football team ended up winning anyway. Right? And that's exactly what happened. Right? Everyone loves to slow down, frame by frame. Twitter refs, you're right, for 5 frames of the play, a Chiefs lineman appears to hold somebody. Yeah, you're right, for the 0.2 of a second that those 5 frames elapse, he might have been holding somebody. But in real time, when you actually watch the game like a human being, not a robot, you saw that he kind of drives the DT into the ground, right? Is what it is. Was there a little grabbing? Probably. Right? Probably. But grow up. And people in Cincinnati actually think that the refs blew the game. Right? Let's take officiating out of the game. Right? I won't even count total penalties, penalty yards, right? The Chiefs were a better football team. Dare I say much better, right? Let's look at pretty much every category you'd want to look at. How about total yards? Nope, Chiefs were better here. You can see it on the screen. Total yards, Chiefs had it. Yards per play, Chiefs had it. Chiefs were better on third down. They were better in the red zone, better on special teams, had less turnovers, 1 time of possession, and had more first downs. So they moved the ball better. They moved the ball more efficiently. They didn't turn the ball over as much. They even got more production from their third and least important unit. Oh, they were better when it counted in the red zone on third down. But you know what? The refs gave that one away. It's right there. Right? I'm not saying it's all stat-driven, but despite that, Cincy had a chance to win. But I mean, even just look at the turnovers, right? Teams that lose the turnover battle lose like 70+% of the games. Oh, and by the way, they were worse in like every other statistical category, like I've already mentioned. Right? I've never seen a team do so many things inferiorly, is that a word? We're going to use it, to the other team across from them in a game, yet still blame the refs. Right? Here's a thought. Maybe don't turn the ball over. Maybe don't go 33% in the red zone. Maybe don't punt the ball in the middle of the field with no hang time to Patrick Mahomes. Or, Joseph Tsai, it was a dumb play. Pushed Mahomes and nails out of bounds. Or perhaps, I'm thinking, here's my idea, that the Miller Lite couch guy in the suburbs of Cincy probably also wouldn't be able to stop in 0.3 of a second to not push Mahomes. Right before his toe comes out of bounds. Right? I'm thinking Jeff from the suburbs of Cincinnati on your 11th, probably Bush Light. Yeah, I'm thinking you probably wouldn't be able to do it either. That's a bang-bang play. Grow up. Right? Was it the wrong play? Yes. But relax. It's not the kid's fault. Like, I love when they put all that on him for one play. Did anyone else see the play before where he splits a double team and hits Mahomes' throwing arm, causing the 3rd and 4 right before? Look, I mean, Cincinnati, they got some lean years. And I know they're desperate for some really high-end success, high-end winning. Right? And I know you talked a big game. But complaining, I wish I could say the word, but just whining and moaning and trying to blame somebody else, that's not going to get you there. It's just not. Right? Ask Zach Taylor. Ask, even Jermaine Pratt, the linebacker who was talking to Osai, going to the locker room, listen to Osai. They all go, hey, we need to be better. We need to be better. Was it unfortunate? Yeah, but we need to be better. That's the reality of it. They lost the game. The refs just nailed the coffin. Right? Since he had it. They were already laying down in it.
Yeah.
Right? He just got nailed by the refs. That's it. Relax.
First of all, if you're the better team and you should be winning, if you feel you should be winning that game, you shouldn't have it come down to the refs and a decision like that.
I couldn't agree more.
Never let it go to a decision. You hear it in boxing all the time. The other thing that I wanted to bring up, pretty much, I think a year ago this week, we had Eric Kasparovich on, great coach. We had him on right before the Super Bowl. We asked him who he liked. It might have been reviewing the Super Bowl. But the topic of calls came up, and he expressed, like, look, you cannot complain about everything.
No.
And these calls go both ways. No matter if you get paid back for it next season, the week after, if it's not an elimination game, it all balances out. Play better football more consistently. But we did say, coming into this year, that we did not see the Cincinnati Bengals making it back to the Super Bowl. So a little bit of a hit there. Let's go hits and misses.
So when we were ranking the playoff teams right during the wild card round, I said if Philly, if they get healthy and they come out of the bye healthy, I said look out, that might be the best team in football. And 2 blowout wins to show for it, right, in the playoffs. I know they didn't play the best competition. They didn't play the best quarterback play. No Purdy was hurt, and, well, Daniel Jones is Daniel Jones. So, I mean, but at the end of the day, it's 2 blowout wins in the playoffs. That's impressive, and we kind of saw it coming if they came out healthy, which they have.
Yeah, they had an easier path for sure. I think the NFC is just an all-around easier path, despite the injuries. Right? You're not seeing Burrow and the Bengals. You're not seeing Mahomes and the Chiefs. You're not.
Yeah.
Like the AFC is loaded. But yes, they played good football, great football all season, I'll say. And it was just that big question mark looming. Like, they got the bye. They had a lot of time off. We hadn't seen what they were in a while. They were trending down a little bit towards the end of the season. So, like, you had to give it a second. But they have played at least up to expectations. Big test coming up now.
And then here's the thing. Jalen Hurts didn't even play that well. I'm going to be honest with you.
He didn't.
Like 120 yards passing, 62% completion.
It was nothing special.
Right? I think his shoulder's still getting healthy. But, God, they just situationally played really, really well.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. One here. I mean, we said this. I said this. I'm like, no way in hell I'd take the Denver job. I mean, seriously, Russ is odd with teammates. There's not a lot of cap space. There wasn't picks before.
Not a lot of cap space. There's going to be negative cap space.
Yeah, negative cap space. There wasn't a whole lot of draft capital before. Now there's even less because, for some reason, Sean Payton took the job, and so now they have the Saints like a first and I think a third. I don't know. I guess money is more enticing than I think I may be thinking that it is, right? And I don't know, maybe considering I don't have any. You know what I mean? Like, nobody's offering me $20 million a year. So
team, yeah.
Yeah, that might sway you, but I just think Sean Payton, he would have been better served at Fox making really, really solid money and kind of waiting for a job like the Chargers or the Cowboys or like the Rams that opens up within the next year or two, right? McVay's floated retirement like 5 times. Staley sucks. McCarthy, he gets kind of unfairly blamed, but he's not a great head coach. He's not Sean Payton good.
Yeah.
So I think I would have waited around for that.
There were better spots. There were a lot better spots for Sean Payton.
No draft cap. None.
0. And you don't have any money to spend.
And it only gets worse.
Yeah, your Russ contract is horrible.
And it only gets worse.
I know. I don't even know. What's the first thing you do? If you're Sean Payton, you get there. What are you doing first?
I mean, like, the very first thing I'm doing is I'm calling Russell Wilson, because if you want to have any chance, you have to make Russell Wilson work.
Yeah.
Like from I don't want to say dramatic move standpoint, but I would look, and off the top of my head, I don't have the roster in front of me, but I would start looking at like expensive pieces, not even super expensive, but aging pieces, and I would just say, can I get a third? Can I get a fourth? Can I get a second? Right? I don't know who you
get younger.
Get younger, get cheaper, get draft capital, even if it's third, fourth, fifth rounders, right? If Sean Payton has input in personnel, they'll be fine. He'll be able to make a third or a fourth serviceable.
Yeah.
To be kind of a lot cheaper.
And Sean's a great coach. He knows how to scheme per quarterback too, right? He had a very short Drew Brees. He had to build a game plan that fit that specific quarterback.
Also not mobile, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. It'll be interesting to see.
And I think kind of the way to build this roster is what I would do is I would try to build a really good running and defense football team. Kind of resemble a little bit of like a Tennessee or like a San Francisco.
You got to find an identity and stick to it.
Right, kind of like a San Francisco or Tennessee. Now, granted, San Francisco is a lot more talented on the outside, but both of them run the football really well, play really nice defense on play action and on third and shorts. Ask your quarterback to make a couple throws a game, you're good to go.
Yeah.
That's kind of how you have to structure that team. Hit number 2, I did a rant, I don't know, a couple weeks ago now, and I said Dallas wants to blame pretty much everybody but Dak. And here it is again. Kellen Moore's gone. Kellen Moore was fired as the OC, and of course it's his fault. I mean, why wouldn't it be? He's only had like the second best offense since he's been there, and he only had Andy Dalton start like 9 times, and Garrett Gilbert like 4, and DiNucci once, and Cooper rushed 7. But no, yeah, he still has the second best offenses. He's been there, and not to mention that Dak is at best a B+ quarterback. But it doesn't matter. He didn't last too long on the market. Chargers picked him up. We'll see if it's good for Herbert. I don't know. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. This is more about Dallas, and they're just I don't know what to make of Dallas anymore.
I don't understand. How can you not see it? You can't see that? He started for you for 7 years. The problem has transcended head coaches. Coordinators. Like, look at the guy that's been there through all the problems. The guy that still hasn't led you anywhere.
I agree with you.
As his contract gets worse, it's just going to get worse.
Couldn't agree more. Not to mention Zeke's overpaid by a lot.
Yeah.
I know. Mr. Number 2 here. I said I think that Joe Burrow is probably the most precise, accurate, situationally versed quarterback in the league. And I thought that was kind of his it over Mahomes, right? That's what sets him apart. That's what makes him arguably in spots better than Mahomes. But I don't know anymore. I think maybe Mahomes might actually have that on him too. Mahomes might be number one at everything.
I don't know. I think...
I know it's one game. I don't want to overreact. But, I mean, come on.
I think overall, as a body of work, Burrow does it better, but this is the thing.
Like situational and accuracy, precision.
Yes,
okay.
Yes, he does that better. But when you're comparing those two strengths, Patrick is just generationally talented to the point that you're never going to see somebody... rarely ever going to see somebody play football like this.
No.
So I think his specialness, his pop, the way that he can just score in 13 seconds with no timeouts, the way he can lead game-winning drives, that's his special. And I think when they're matched up against each other, sometimes when he's on, that's going to get the better of the situational calling, audibling into the right plays like Burrow does.
Off the top of my head, I don't remember how many timeouts and how much time was left on the clock. I want to say no timeouts, a little bit under a minute when they got the ball for that final drive.
Yeah.
Whenever they got it, even if it was anywhere on the other side of their own 40, I was sitting there, I'm like, that's over. Sky Moore returned it to almost the 50-yard line.
Yeah,
I was like, yeah, that game's over.
They were on their own 46 to start that drive.
Yeah, no, he's special.
If they were inside their 10, I still would have not felt great for the Bengals.
Wouldn't have felt great, but anyway, hit number 3 here. We discussed this when the Dolphins fired Brian Flores. No, the Bryans fired Dolphin Flores. And the Dolphins fired Brian Flores. I said it's not a well-run team, right? I like what they've done with McDaniel. I like some of the offensive pieces they've acquired and brought in. But upstairs in the front office, I don't think it's a well-run team. And I think yet again they're showing that off. They're just odd. First of all, they're keeping Tua. I don't get it. I don't think that's the right move. I think in the AFC especially, you got to go big. You got to either go for a really, really savvy vet that is going to be able to win you some games and elevate you in some way, or you have to go for someone who's more talented, maybe a little more raw, but more talented. And then second off, they apparently get Vic Fangio, which is a great get. I think he's probably the top defensive mind on the market right now for their defensive coordinator position. But then he comes out and he's like, no, not going to the Dolphins. I have other options out there. I don't know what to make of them. They're kind of in shambles upstairs.
Yeah.
It's not a well-run organization.
They never have been. They never have been.
Starts with the owner. They just had to forfeit a. They don't have a first-round draft pick this year because they were tampering with Brady and Sean Payton.
Yeah.
Tell me it's well-run?
No, not at all.
It's not well-run.
Not at all.
It's not well-run at all.
It's never been one of the greatest organizations in the NFL. They've just kind of started to get some really good talent and some pieces as of late. But, they still can't seem to put it together. So
they've been able to replace Marino in, 20-something years?
Yeah, it's been a while.
So that says everything you need to know. All right, Mr. Number 3 here. I've said time and time again that I really, really like Mike Sullivan for the Penguins. I think he's got juice. He's got, some passion, some fire. They play hard for Mike. I think overall his pairings have been pretty good. The HBK line, all that, all the good pairings he's at. But recently, they're just not very good. And I think especially defensively. So I don't know if something needs to switch with defensive pairings or whatever. But they are reeling right now. I don't have an answer. I'm not versed in hockey enough to be like, oh, I know exactly what to do. They need to switch to this defense and do this on the power play. I don't have an answer, but I don't know if maybe Mike is nearing the end. I know some people are getting kind of pissed, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I certainly wouldn't fire him, but it's not looking good for the Pens and Mike Sullivan.
No, it really isn't. a voice tends to go stale in a locker room after a while.
Oh, it can
we know
definitely
that. And I love Mike Sullivan, great coach, but you can't deny the just
decline.
absolute nosedive in quality of play. I think a big part of it, and I love the Penguins. I love the old stars and having them all still in Pittsburgh. I think it's awesome to still have Letang. I think it's awesome to still have Malkin. But at some point, you have to look into the future a little bit. Are you willing to keep sacrificing seasons with Sidney Crosby, who's still playing at a top? He's a top talent in the league
5
still,
to 10?
which is insane. He's aging though, so if you're gonna want to win cups, you might want to start trying to win them like now.
Right now.
I wouldn't keep him surrounded by an old team. I
agree. I think you need young. You need youth. You need speed.
I would deal Malkin, and I would honestly deal Letang. He's older. He's slowing down.
Like, I don't know. We'll have to get a hockey person on, but what do you?
We should get Bursic back on.
What would a goalie get? Would a goalie get a decent young forward? Or I'm sorry, how many pieces would you have to give up for a goalie?
I mean, it depends what kind of goalie you're trying to get.
A good one.
A really good one?
An actual good one, because we don't have any on the roster. None.
And you're talking about giving up picks?
Picks, young players, whatever.
I would, for a good goalie, they're going to need somebody like, I'd bet you they'd want like a Malkin, maybe somebody in the A system, and even like a third.
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe we could talk about this a little bit more during the news, but let's go ahead and get to a break. When we come back, we'll rank the top 10 players, right? Total, both Chiefs and Eagles, just top 10 players in the Super Bowl. Kind of get a gauge on, who's got more talent. So yeah, don't go anywhere. Second segment. Thursday. What's it, the second now? First?
Yep, second.
First? Second? All right.
February 2nd.
I don't remember which months have 31, which have 30, 29.
Well, we're in a weird one now.
Evidently, some have, 28? Is that right? I don't know.
February. Yep, that would be the one we're in now.
Okay, yeah, whatever. All right.
Yeah, only 28 days in February. Yeah, we're good.
Is there like a song that tells you how many months are in? I feel like there is. I don't know. I don't remember it. Either way, not important. We're gonna rank the top 10 players in the Super Bowl, regardless of team, regardless of position. Just top 10 guys right now, heading into the game. Not all time, right now.
Yeah.
And then we'll get into a little bit of a discussion regarding the Niners. What do they do going forward? Some interest with Tom Brady. Who knows? So that's kind of how the second segment's looking. Third segment, we'll have another discussion about Sean Payton. A little bit of news. So kind of jumping all around the board here, but let's start with the rankings.
Great show. Yeah, I mean, why not? It's the Super Bowl. I feel like this is probably one of those rankings where it's more prop bet-ish, right? Because like some of these guys are going to be, like guys that you're looking at for like overs, unders on passing yards, rushing yards, all that kind of stuff. So.
I mean, yeah. I think also whenever you're looking, you're kind of starting to do a deep dive, right? We have 2 episodes. We have 2 weeks to look at the Super Bowl. So next week we'll probably go like matchup wise. What are some interesting matchups to watch?
We're just going best talent for this list,
right? Like I think the Chiefs' offensive line versus the defensive front of Philly is fascinating to me. So we'll talk about a little bit about that next week.
Yeah.
But this week is just 10 best guys, kind of giving us an idea who's got more talent, where's the talent at. So let's go with that. Let's start at number 10 like we always do. Let's go with the center for the Chiefs, Creed Humphrey. So he's only his second year, but his first year he was instantly a top 3 to 5 center.
Big
literally
piece.
instantly, yeah. I think he was a second or third round pick. So he's not making a ton of money yet, which is really, really nice for them to go get cheap labor that also happens to be all pro level good. He's your ideal center. He's a big dude, real stocky. He doesn't have a lot of, not a lot of height to him, but he's a big, thick guy.
Yeah.
And he's just really, really good run blocker. Good for the middle of the offensive line there.
The importance of a center, I think it's overlooked so
100%.
often, especially when you have a great quarterback like Patrick Mahomes. That center-quarterback relationship has to be perfect, right? I mean, we saw it it was somewhat noticeable when Pouncey retired and Ben had to switch up centers. The quarterbacks really rely on having their guy, him being the type of guy that can step in so quickly and be a big piece for that offensive line. I mean, they've struggled in the past. So
also, centers aren't just there. It's not just important because they touch the ball every play. Like that's obviously important. They're the ones that make a lot of the adjustments for the offensive line. Right, the quarterback and him are communicating, making adjustments, identifying rushes, all that stuff. So very important. He's done well. He's at number 10 here. Number 9, let's go Darius Slay. He's a big play corner, right? So he's going to get takeaways. He's going to jump routes. He's going to deflect ball. He's not like I think Sauce Gardner is a little bit better, but he's not as fun to watch, right? Because you just don't even see him. You don't hear his name for the entire game because he's locked down, right? Mm-hmm. He doesn't even come close to allowing his guy to get open to even get a ball thrown his way. Like Darius Slay, he'll take a couple chances. He's going to take a couple risks. It's going to be fun to watch. He'll be close to a pick pretty much every game. And I think that'll be no different in the Super Bowl. He's at number 9.
And I think he's one of the best DBs in the league at playing press, right?
Yeah.
You look at those
short
yardage
arms.
Right, you have the short yardage situation when it's 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, and a slant's coming, or a little bit of a fade's coming. He is locked down when you can press him and put him in man. I love that at 9.
I agree. Let's go to number 8, Chris Jones, the defensive tackle for the Chiefs. Now, could arguably be higher, but I think value-wise, an interior defensive lineman, yes, can be a game wrecker, but I think edge rusher, wide receiver, right? Like I think tackles, those are more important positions. So that's why he's not higher. But at the end of the day, I mean, he is a game wrecker. You
can't deny what he's done this season.
Does he have an argument for the best interior defensive lineman right now?
I think so.
Because Aaron Donald was not at the top of his game this season.
Nope.
Cam Hayward's probably up there.
He's up there, but he wasn't that level this year.
Dexter Lawrence from the Giants, Quinnen Williams from the Jets, but I think I'd take Chris Jones. Right now, if I had to take a defensive tackle to start an organization with, I'd probably take Chris Jones.
And what a flip that was, too, from last season. I mean, he was good, but he wasn't like this.
Wasn't this. He has elevated to a different level.
And we know how important that is, especially because of some of the weaknesses in the Chiefs secondary. So
yeah, yes, you have to be able to
having somebody that either stop the run, rush the pass rusher, or rush the passer.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I get it. Number 7 here, Hassan Reddick. Again, like I said, I think edge rushers are more valuable. You saw his value. First of all, I know nobody likes to say it, and it's not like he purposely did it, but there was value. Like, he knocked Brock Purdy out of the game.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that, like, that's the goal, but it's something, right? It's something. And he's wildly productive, even not including that fact he had two sacks, 3 tackles for loss. I think he had 2 forced fumbles, a 1 forced fumble, a fumble recovery. Right, he was just everywhere.
Yeah,
he was everywhere. He is no fun to block off the edge. He's been a really underrated pass rusher for the last 4 years-ish, roughly. But I think he's a really, really solid edge piece. He's kind of the lifeblood of the pass rush for the Eagles, which is the best in the league, so he's at 7.
I was going to say, he is the cornerstone that it's all built around, and that pass rush for the Eagles has been crazy this year.
Yeah.
Look, a little bit of a side conversation, more about a matchup thing, but it's worth being mentioned. Mahomes didn't look the same mobility-wise.
I mean, he moved enough, but he was hobbling, he was grimacing, he was wincing.
That's the Bengals pass rush. If you remember the box check game that we did last week, they didn't get a check in that box.
They're bottom 5, so
obviously they're not going to be a top pass rush in the league. Now you go see Philadelphia,
number 1.
This is going to be a matchup.
Let's go number 6, Joe Tooney. So he's the guard for the Chiefs, probably a top 2 guard in the league. And I know guards don't have a ton of value, but I think for this offense, he does. Mahomes up the middle does not handle pressure well. That's also why Creed Humphrey's on this list, right? Yeah. Up the middle, and this is just for most quarterbacks. Brady's always notoriously been like this. Up the middle pressure is a really, really good way to throw a quarterback off his spot. When Mahomes can't kind of step up, right? If he has to go outside, around the back of the pocket, now he's 15 yards behind the line of scrimmage trying to make a play. He can do it because he's great, but he's better when he can step up and evade left to right, where he's right near the line. He can kind of run a little bit. He can still throw.
Yeah.
So I think Tooney up front on the interior of the offensive line is wildly important for Mahomes, especially with him being hampered. So I think that's why he's at 6.
100% agree. That protecting your franchise guy like that, especially in these big moments, so that he can have the time and awareness to see what's going on, make those big plays and make those special plays. It's that little stuff that goes unnoticed up front a lot of the times. But
100%.
One of the most important pieces for sure.
Number 5, A.J. Brown. I think he's a top 5 receiver. I really do. I think he's a top 3 after the catch. You can't
deny that.
He's a top 3 yak guy, yards after catch. Just impossible to bring down. He can high point the football. He'll beat you deep. He can beat you on slants. He's no fun to tackle in the open field, so you can throw him a screen pass. He can really do a whole lot of everything. He's got a really nice route tree. And I don't think it's a coincidence that he has jumped this much.
So do you think he's the best acquisition from this last offseason? Because he has an argument, right? I mean, leaving Tennessee for what they got him for. And they add A.J. Brown, who has just had an absolutely stellar season. And by the way, one of the best targets for a younger quarterback in Jalen Hurts. You could make the argument that it's the best pickup in the offseason.
That's fair. All right, number 4.
So.
By the way, you're going to notice that I'm gonna piss a lot of people off here with this list. Number 4 is Jason Kelce. So he's the center for the Eagles. Again, wildly important.
Man.
What?
No, I mean, I agree.
No, hold up. It gets worse. There's somebody that's not on here. But it's for a reason, and I'll explain at the end. Okay. But anyway, Jason Kelce at 4. He's center for the Eagles. He's behind a lot of what they want to do, running the football.
Yeah.
He's kind of the soul, the leader of that offensive line. Like I said, able to point out blitzes, rushers, leading, in run blocking, hasn't allowed a sack in I think 2 years, so it's just ridiculous.
Leading in morale too. That dude keeps the energy up.
Yeah, he's a lot like Travis, but because they're brothers, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, like you said, morale, leader, right, very good. Number 3 here, Lane Johnson, their right tackle, who's playing through a torn groin.
That's usually something that sidelines you for a while, yeah. You would think.
He tore it, rested, retore it, and is still playing through it. Not allowed a sack. Shut down Micah Parsons, made him not even a factor. Nick Bosa, good luck. Didn't work. It's insane. It's literally insane. All right, number 2, Travis Kelce. Tight end, number 1 tight end in football, probably a top 5 of all time. The route tree is incredible. And I would say with Mahomes hurt, he is the number 1 target easily. It's not even all that close.
Yeah.
He's got, second or third most receptions in postseason history, behind Gronk maybe, of all time. And maybe behind Jerry Rice as well. I don't even know. I'll have to pull it up. But either way, Travis Kelce at 2, he's an all-time talent.
You should have teased this. You should have teased it in the very beginning, because now, for these past 4, I've just been sitting here waiting, counting down. You haven't said 2 names, so which fan base are we going after this week?
Number 1's Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, sorry, Jalen. Sorry.
So Mahomes is 1, because despite the injury, he put up a stat line and a performance that is almost inhuman.
Yeah.
It's 105 pass rating, 300 plus yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, 106. Did I ever say 105, 106 pass rating, 67% completion on one leg, throwing to backups with backups protecting him.
Oh.
With backups protecting him, and so I'll explain.
You have to explain yourself here. Why doesn't Jalen make it?
So, call me crazy. He's been more complimentary. He's been okay, let me get into it. So, I'll start here. I will concede that maybe I could hear the argument for him above Creed Humphrey or Darius Slay, but at best that puts him at 9. So I'm just going to say that. Let's start with why he's low right now. 1, I'm not sure of his health. Right, he completed about 60-ish% of his throws this past weekend, 120 yards. Right, wasn't super effective. Now, I know he can run. That's great. But at the end of the day, in the playoffs, you have to deliver from the pocket. Right, you saw from the Super Bowl, Mahomes running around for his life, was not able to lead him to victory against the Bucs. Right, you have to be able to deliver in the biggest moments. Think about the most iconic plays. Big Ben delivering to Santonio Holmes. Even Eli Manning. I know it's a scramble, but at the end of the day, it's the throw to David Tyree. It's the throw up the sideline to Mario Manningham. It is the throws that matter. And in his last 4 games, I said it's coming into this game. It's the momentum recently coming into this game. His last 4 games, he's averaging 61% completion percentage, 205 yards a game, 2 touchdowns, 3 picks in that 4 games. 2 touchdowns, 3 picks. More picks than touchdowns. 79 pass rating. Right, so... And like I said, it's not completely his fault. He's been hurt. I don't think that shoulder's 100%. I don't even think it's 75%. I think it's closer to 65 to 70% healthy. He hurt his throwing shoulder.
Yeah.
Right? We played baseball, dude. I mean, do you know how many? Okay, let's phrase it like this. So when was your last year of real competitive baseball? What, high school, right?
Senior year, yeah.
How many ibuprofens pre-game were being popped on a game-by-game basis?
3 to 4 to make it through.
To make it through the game.
And then
now imagine
icy hot between every inning.
Now, and that is as a high school athlete, right? Who, we throw a lot for baseball, but we're not taking hits from 300-pound people. Yeah. We're not running quarterback draws up the middle, meeting Fred Warner in the hole.
He definitely has a bit more of a stressful one there.
That's a real problem. And I think recently he's been a little bit more complimentary. Now, what he provides with legs, certainly important. And so that's why I could hear the argument for him being a little bit higher, maybe 9, 8, maybe, right? Because of what he can provide with his legs. But recently, he has not been that good. He's been more of a complementary piece. That's why I don't have him higher.
You have a point. And I don't think Philly's going to like it too much.
They're not going to like it. I just think it's interesting, and it's... Do I think Jalen Hurts is a top 7 quarterback right now in the league? Absolutely. Would I take a call on him? Absolutely not. Would I sign him for a lot of money? Probably. I think he's got the leadership. Mostly he's got the toughness. He produces most of the time, but recently he hasn't been. It's going into this game that I'm ranking, not his body of work over the last season. It's the last 5 to 6 games, especially the last 2, which haven't been very good.
Well, damn. This is where I wish we had a deal with ADT home security, because Tim's going to need it pretty soon.
I'm just saying. and I like him. I'd pay him tomorrow. I'd start my franchise with him, except for Mahomes, Allen, Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, and Burrow. He'd probably be the 6th person that I would pick to start my franchise with.
Hey.
And that is no shot. Those 5 guys above him are specimens. That is no shot at him at all.
Huge talents.
I'd pay him $40 million a year. I would.
They're going to come after you this week, though.
Even though I'm complimentary, and I'm just truthful, but
they won't listen to that complimentary part. They'll hear the first part.
Whatever. Okay, let's transition into... I want to talk a little bit about Tom Brady and kind of the Niners. So a lot of people were pretty pissed and pretty upset about the Niners game, myself being one of them. I mean, no one really wants to see an awful display of football. Again, I picked the Eagles. It doesn't make me feel good that the prediction was right, but I still had to watch bad football, right?
Yeah.
I would have rather had a good game, especially when I don't really have a quote-unquote dog, horse in the race, right? Dog in the race, right? I just want to see good football, right? Like that Chiefs-Bengals game, great football.
Fantastic.
I would watch 10 of those, right? That was supposed to be the heavyweight battle, of the ages, right? But 6 offensive Niner plays in, the game was over. Right? I think it was 6 plays in for the Niners. Purdy gets hit. That game's over. Second series of the game, you were like, no, that's over. And I'm not going to dwell on that game, right? Because that's not a fair evaluation of the Niners. That's not a fair evaluation of either team, really. It's pretty clear to see what happened, why they lost, why Philly won, etc. You don't need me up here, flapping my gums about it. Everybody understands what happened. Here's what came to my mind about halfway through the second quarter, though. Right, season's not even over. It's still, at this point, I think a 7. It's a touchdown or 2 game. It's manageable for them to come back. But I knew they weren't going to. I'm watching Josh Johnson get absolutely ragdolled. He looks overmatched. The only thing that I kept thinking of is that I think Tom Brady to the Niners finally makes sense. Right, earlier this year when those rumors started, I said, I'm not sure they really make sense. I think Miami makes sense. I think him going with Josh McDaniels back into in Vegas, that makes sense. I mean, earlier this year, it just didn't make sense for him to move all the way across country to a team that has young talent, has young quarterback talent, cheap quarterback talent. Didn't make sense, right? But I think it does now. So Brock Purdy tore his UCL, complete tear, right? That's, for those of you who don't know, that's what requires a pitcher to get Tommy John surgery. Right? Tommy John surgery, that's like a 14-month rehab.
Yeah, it's not little.
So he's going to need probably about 8 months, roughly. They said 6. I'm going to go more like 8. If it's really a complete tear, that's more like 8 to me. Before he is back to his normal, and his normal still isn't a prolific arm. Right, so he's out for all the offseason, probably even some of the regular season next year. So he's probably a bench guy for next year. As of now, who knows if he'll get another shot, right? But you look around the roster, Trent Williams is almost 35. He's almost done. Right, the defense is still cheap, but they're young cheap, which means they're going to be getting paid here in about a year or 2. Weapons are still a manageable price, kind of. But the team is in a win-now type of mode because those people are going to need paid soon. Aging players are going to be out soon. They're going to be out of their prime or straight up retired soon. That's the construct of this roster right now. Trey Lance does not give them a blind shot, in all honesty. I wish him well. But in reality, they're probably going to ship him to Houston or something and get a 2nd or 3rd round pick for him, right? He's not right for this roster right now. But who is? Well, Tom Brady. Tom Brady's perfect. He's perfect. He's accurate. He's methodical. He's precise. His timing's always on point. There's a reason that Kyle Shanahan, at one point, there were rumors that he wanted Mac Jones. What's Mac Jones do really well? Stay on schedule. He's pretty accurate, pretty precise, especially in the short to intermediate range where Kyle likes to operate. What's Brady always been known for? The methodical, almost enraging as an opponent, dink and dunk, accurate, on time, precise, keep the chains moving, 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2s. But, and also, here's the biggest point. Somehow he always seems to stay healthy. He hasn't missed a game due to injury since 2008. He is perfect for this team. He gives them a hell of a shot to win right now. Hell of a shot. Now, I'm not saying that in Philly, Brady's winning that game. But let's be real, it doesn't look like that. It does not look like that. With Brady on the Niners roster that game, that's a last possession, go either way game. And in a go either way game, who am I taking? I'm taking Tom Brady in that spot. It's not crazy. I think it was. I don't think it's crazy now, Brady to the Niners. I don't. I know you still think Miami. Why? Because I think this makes a ton of sense. Family from there. He's from the area. Parents still live there. It's probably the best roster he can go to and have a chance to win.
It was weird. My riding favorite was the 49ers when the whole thing started, when we started talking about potential landing spots. But then the more I thought about Miami, the more it kind of made sense. One, just because that offense has the weapons right now to compete with anybody. You have Waddle. You have Tyreek.
Gesicki's a good tight end.
Gesicki's a great tight end.
They can run the ball pretty well.
Yes. They just added, they have instability in their front office, which now is making me a little bit more shaky towards the whole Miami thing. But a Tom Brady, an experienced veteran quarterback that knows how to win, that has experience in the postseason.
In that division as well.
In the division where he would be able to go and play a Bill Belichick New England Patriots team twice a year. It's interesting. It could be something that a little thing he wants to get back at Bill, but I think it's more so just a fit in the offense. If you could put a veteran like that knows how to win with those young pieces, and I mean Tyreek Hill knows how to win too. He was with the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes and in the Andy Reid system. I think he would do well with a Brady. Tua's not getting it done. They need to. If I'm Miami right now, I know Tua's not a hit. I know that I'm not winning any big games. I'm not going to go through the playoffs, win an AFC Championship, let alone a Super Bowl with Tua. So I'm looking around. Tom seems like the biggest kind of saving grace that Miami could get at this point.
I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. It's certainly an interesting point, and here's what's even crazier. Both of them are in the market right now because their quarterbacks can't stay healthy.
And yeah, I can see the argument on San Francisco's side too. We all saw how pissed off George Kittle was.
Oh my God, yeah. And at some point, you reach a breaking point. Kyle Shanahan's had this happen multiple years now.
I know.
Anytime they're healthy, they are in the NFC Championship game competing. They're a top
3
4
years
team.
in a row? 3 years in a row now that this has happened to them? Or is this twice?
No, last year they lost in the NFC Championship game to the Rams, but Jimmy G was healthy.
Yes.
The year before, so after the Super Bowl 2020, Jimmy G got hurt.
Yep.
That was a bust.
Yep.
The year before the Super Bowl, Jimmy G was unhealthy. That was a bust. The year before that, Jimmy G was unhealthy. That was a bust.
And they're always right in it to the end, but they just can't finish.
How many more years can you keep wasting that good of a roster?
You can't.
You can't. So I think it's a win now. It's just fascinating, right? Because, and like I said, both due to injury. And I'm not the biggest supporter of Tua, but I will say, when he's healthy, it's not a no-brainer that you wouldn't move off him, right?
Yeah. But
I personally still would. I think he's limited with size, arm strength, all that. But at the end of the day, when he's healthy, he's relatively productive. You'd probably stick with him, honestly. They would probably stick with him 100%, not even take a call if he maintained health his entire young career so far.
Yeah. The other thing, though, like you mentioned with the roster in San Francisco, if it has never been more win now than this, because we've seen what happened. You saw what happened to the Rams roster and to their entire season this year when they brought everybody back, and they had a win now roster. Yeah. They went out, they spent big on all the key pieces, on all the stars that they needed to, and then look what happened. So
injuries and age, and
your window is really, really, really starting to shrink if you're San Francisco.
Yeah. It's got to be now. And I think Brady's the best way to do it.
And you don't have time, you don't have years to waste on a young quarterback to figure it out. You have to go get somebody that knows what they're doing.
I couldn't agree more. All right, that's all we got for the second segment here. Coming into the third segment, we'll have some news. Just some news around the league, head coaching hires, all that fun stuff. We'll talk that, and then we'll talk a little bit about Sean Payton, the Broncos. What's it mean? Do we like it? Do we not like it? So don't go anywhere. We got all that coming up next.
Let's go third segment on Thursday, February 2nd. We got a good news segment to start off here.
Just some news in the NFL.
Yeah, got bumped from the second to the third segment today, but when you have this many big stories to talk about and kind of bounce around and figure out and predict and kind of look into the future a little bit at what the NFL landscape could look like with some big people moving around. Sometimes the news gets bumped to the third. But nevertheless, we have a lot of really good stories to get to you. Are they all NFL?
Yeah.
They're all NFL?
Yeah.
Okay.
NFL's popping right now.
It fits. It fits the theme. So, I like it. Super Bowl is coming up. Pro Bowl this week. Probably not going to watch it, but
hell no, I'm not going to watch it.
You're not watching the Pro Bowl?
Absolutely not.
You don't want to watch the most interesting game of flag football that you've ever seen.
Tyler Huntley just got elected to the Pro Bowl. I'm out. I'm out. Derek Carr got benched. I like Derek Carr. Derek Carr got benched. He's a Pro Bowl quarterback.
You do like Derek Carr. Speaking of which, you're getting hit for it a little bit. There's some people coming into your fence on Instagram there, but we posted like a reel.
Was it me talking about how if he plays for another 3 years, he's going to be a top 16 quarterback. If he plays for another 5 years, he's a top 12 quarterback statistically of all time when you look at touchdowns and yards. Yeah,
it was that one. You got some people coming to your fence, other not so much. But go check it out. Either way, the _issue podcast on Instagram. All the links, like normal, can be found in the description of the episode wherever you are watching, listening. Go check out theissuesports.com while we're on the topic of it. We got all the news stories up over there, the access to our newsletter that comes out every week on Wednesday. So make sure you put your email in there, click sign up, and then just accept the email that comes into the inbox. You have to give like a nice little verification just to make sure. I'm not trying to send you a bunch of spam, only one email a week, and it's a really good one. Gives you a little insight on the upcoming show. But let's get into news. We kind of got a lot to go over there.
I'll start with story number 1 here. Houston Texans, they have found their new head football coach, the San Francisco 49ers former defensive coordinator DeMeco Ryans' 6-year contract to be the next head coach of the Texans. So my thoughts, I actually do think it's a good hire. Hear me out, right? So DeMeco, I think he's going to end up being a really nice coach. I prefer him to be offensive, so I don't think he's an absolute home run, but I think he's a good coach, and here's why, right? This draft is loaded with defensive talent at the top. So what I would do, what my strategy would be if I'm, a front office guy, a coach, GM, whatever, in the organization for the Texans, I'd say, DeMeco, go get yourself a toy on the defensive side, right? Go Will Anderson, go get that the edge rusher from Georgia, right? Both of them are really, really dynamic athletes, would make an impact day one, like a Chase Young style, right? Aiden Hutchinson, both the Bosas, right?
Yeah.
Day one impact players. Probably not be very good, though, because the state of the offense, he's a defensive coach. He's not going to turn the offense around, right? So the state of the offense with whatever quarterback you're throwing out there is probably not going to be very good. So then, what do? We're still going to be drafting top 3. You go get a Drake May, Caleb Williams. So then, by the end of next season, you're looking really nice.
We at least have a skeleton of a team to build around.
Skeleton of a team. I think what DeMeco's going to do, turn the defense around really quickly. Then you can go get a young quarterback. Doesn't have to win shootouts. Let Caleb Williams develop a little bit. He's already going to be a freak of nature coming out. Same thing with Drake May.
Yeah.
I don't think it's crazy. I think it's a pretty good hire.
It's the best hire that I think the Texans could have gotten at this point.
I know Sean Payton interviewed and discussed it with him, but I don't think there was ever a chance they got him. But outside of him, I think DeMeco's the best candidate for the Texans.
Yeah, and I mean that's a really tough situation to inherit. I think the plan that you kind of put forward is a good one. It's one that is very realistic to their capabilities in the next couple of years. Yeah. Because I've been seeing some things that are just like preposterous ideas that he's going to somehow going to turn it around
like in a year and be like a playoff team next year.
Yeah, they're going to be a playoff team next year, like Super Bowl in 2 to 3 years.
No.
That's about the furthest from the truth you could get.
They can be
but
interesting.
It can be a turnaround, at least not an absolute dumpster fire like they were this year.
Can they be by after they draft Caleb, right? So they would draft him after this next season. Mm-hmm. So in 2024, that'd be right. Yeah, 2024. Can they be a fringe playoff team like a Jacksonville level interesting, or like the Lions, who probably weren't that great of a team but were very interesting, scrappy, right on the border of a playoff.
2 to 3 years to get there.
I don't think that's crazy.
And then from there you can build.
Yeah, for sure.
Start working your way out of that miserable cap space you're in right now.
All you have to do is win 4 games and you're an upgrade. So I mean, it's not the bar's pretty low.
The bar is low.
All right, story number 2 here. We'll stay with the head coach thing. Former Saints head coach Sean Payton as we discussed a little bit earlier, has accepted the Denver Broncos job. Kind of still up in the air on compensation for Sean. Probably going to be north of, I think, $20 million a year, which is insane.
You want a good coach like that, you got to pay.
Well, yeah, and they also had to give a first-round pick, and I want to say a third to the Saints, because he was technically still under contract with the Saints whenever he retired, so they have the right to him, so they get compensation for him signing with the Broncos. I'm not going to say it's a terrible fit. We're going to talk more about it here pretty soon, but I think for Denver, it's good. I think it's the best candidate on the board, easily.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah.
He's a Hall of Fame coach. That's a Hall of Fame coach.
That's a big hit for Denver. I'm not sure what that means for Sean Payton. I think he might have gotten a little bit of the short end of the stick. When you look at the jobs that were available, or that might be available.
That might be available within the next year or two.
Yeah. He could have held out for something. We'll talk about it more coming up here.
All right, story number 3 here. The Dirty Bengals fans had themselves a rough week. Not only have they lost, but they've also been clowned in pretty much every way possible, and I mean rightfully so. Right, Travis Kelce's up there. Eli Apple, who at best is a number 2 corner on a good team, got cooked by Marquise Valdez-Scantling.
All day.
I mean, look, MVS is fine, but let's be real. He's like a 3, maybe a 4 on a good team. Got cooked by him. They're eating their words right now, and I'm not going to lie, I couldn't be happier about it. And I actually I like the Bengals more than I probably should as a Pittsburgh fan, and I'm still very, very happy that they're eating their words right now. They act like they won the Super Bowl. Didn't even get there. They're acting like they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah. I mean, when the expectations were so high, and they were talking so much before the game. And when the mayor put that video out, I was like, ooh, now that might be some bad juju.
That's just too much. Isn't that too much?
That's crossing.
It's too much.
Look, I could see a video being made if they had already won. You know what I mean? They go out there and for like the 4th, they just keep beating Mahomes. Like Mahomes can't
I agree. They're 4-0 against them. They win in some pretty good fashion.
Yeah. Then maybe take your shots. Don't talk too early. Travis Kelce's going to put you in your place, no matter if you're an elected official or not.
Yeah, he doesn't care. He does not care.
We found that out this week. It was entertaining. We are a little bit sad over here, though. We had a fantastic shirt design going. If that would have hit, that would have been awesome.
Would have been very, very nice.
But
that's all right.
Hey, you can still go buy it if you feel like it.
Because I mean, he is still 3-1 over Mahomes.
3-1, yeah. Until I see Mahomes win again, he's still Daddy Joe to me.
That's fair enough. Story number 4 here: the Cowboys' former offensive coordinator Kellen Moore. He was on the market for about 2 minutes before the Chargers swooped in and signed him as their new offensive coordinator. Is this a good move for Herbert and the Chargers?
Yeah, you need something different. You need something different in LA. They haven't been able to win, and that's concerning when you have somebody like a Justin Herbert.
And
you should be winning more.
Too.
You have weapons.
Austin Eckler's a touchdown machine.
You need a new scheme. You need a new scheme, and you need somebody to get in Brandon Staley's ear and tell him not to go for it on 4th and 5 in bad situations.
Now he dialed it back a little bit this year.
A little bit, sure, but I mean he still takes unnecessary risks.
What I want to look for Kellen Moore to do, my advice to him. Now, granted, Kellen's a much smarter guy than me. I'm going to be pretty honest with you, and I don't think it takes a genius to know that. But here's what it can be kind of tough when you're in the thick of it, right? Like an offensive coordinator, like a player, like a coach is, to kind of step back and look, what do I need to do from a holistic view? What you need to do is you need to get an identity, right? You need to, because let's be real here, Nick Sirianni, day one. Now, we clowned his opening press conference, but basically all it was we need to form an identity, because then once we have that identity, we can fit the talent to the identity. Everyone can be in their own role, and now we have an identity of toughness. Great, whatever it is, right? You have to establish that, then find the players to fill it. Everyone buys in. That's kind of what we need to see from the Chargers, no?
Yeah, and I think this could speak to Dallas too. Now, depending on what he's able to do with the Chargers, now you got to turn around and look at Dallas and have a really, like you were saying last week, you sometimes don't know how good somebody was until they leave and you look at the place after they left.
100%. That's going to be interesting here.
Now, if they are amazing in Los Angeles and Dallas really can't put it together,
what if they're a top 5 defense? And Dallas, because of the cap situation, they're also going to lose talent too, but nobody's going to use that as context. Dallas is going to regress. What if LA makes the playoffs, wins a playoff game, Dallas misses the playoffs?
Crazy. That'd be crazy.
I think it happens. That's my prediction. I think it happens too. That's what's crazy.
Bye, Dak. See ya. That's what happens.
It's interesting. Speaking of interesting, and I think probably the most captivating team in the league kind of going into next year is going to be Denver, right? They just hired Sean Payton. And so Sean's going to take the bag, and that's fine. But is it necessarily a good move? I don't know. So the number is going to be somewhere $20 plus million a year, which is absurd, right? I'm never going to tell somebody to take less money. Right? Go get the bag, whatever, right? Whatever they say, go get the money. That's fine. Athletes, accountants, businessmen, coaches, whatever. I fully get it. But I do feel like at a certain point there's a business decision that is more important than money, especially with somebody who, I mean, let's be real. Sean has made a lot of money in his life, and let's be real, he's probably not a dummy on the investment side of it. His money's probably making money at this point, right? Like Sean's not an idiot, and I don't personally view Denver right now as a great job. I think in the locker room that there are some major fractures in the locker room. I think there's more leaks upstairs than pretty much any team in football right now. I mean, hell, even Cleveland this past season was quieter, and they had somebody who was like, I don't know, getting sued like 20-some times at quarterback. So, I mean, if that's quieter, then that's a problem, right? And I think there's overrated but okay talent on the outside. The offensive line outside of left tackle is a total rebuild. I mean, the young running back is promising, but he's coming off an ACL, so who knows? The defense is talented, but they're going to need paid soon. And, oh, by the way, they're going to need paid with what money? Because there's no money to pay that young core with because you're paying Russell Wilson a goddamn fortune. Right? So, not to mention, there's no way to acquire cheap labor because, well, you don't have draft picks. And you have to give up the first and I think a third for Sean Payton. So now you have even less draft capital when you already didn't have draft capital. Or like, Sean Payton would have been the best candidate available for pretty much any job in the next, 5 hiring cycles. Like, who's going to come along in the next 5 years that's going to be available on the market that is better than Sean Payton? Almost nobody. Right, so you're telling me that Brandon Staley misses the playoffs, or if he does make it, gets bounced relatively early again. They're sticking with him? I'd say wrong. So you could have been coaching Herbert in a year. What if McVay decides to retire? He's talked about it about 7 times now. He could step into a decent roster, great GM, richest owner, nice city, committed organization. Sounds pretty nice to me. I'm just saying, it's not a terrible job. Right? I think he could turn Russ around to at least be serviceable. I do. And I think there is some talent there. I think the defense is at least something you can build around right now. But I think overall, I think it's a subpar choice for Sean. I think it's great for money. It's a decent football brand. Broncos have been pretty big historically, but hey, we'll see. I hope I'm wrong because as a guy and I think as a coach, I really like Sean. I think he's sharp. I think he's clever. I think he's great in the room. For what I've seen, like interview-wise, he's been on Coward pretty much every week for the entire year. It's pretty funny. Great overall guy, right? I hope he does well. I just don't think that that's a good situation to go in when you look at what could be available in the next year. So I think patience would have played really well for him right now.
Yes, I agree. I have some numbers here now. So when you're making a business decision, you look at opportunity cost. What is the cost of the thing that you are giving up?
Let's go, business guy. Come on.
So you have two decisions to make.
Wait, hold on. Let me take some notes here.
Yeah. You got two decisions to make.
So opportunity cost.
Opportunity cost is what you have to give up to get when you make the decision. You take the other thing, right? So if I take option 1, the opportunity cost is option 2, the one that I didn't.
What
take.
You're giving up. So opportunity cost, what you gave up. Okay, continue.
No. So here's the thing. Do you know how much annually he was making with Fox Sports? Do you know what his contract was?
Do you know?
Yes.
Because I don't. I thought you were actually asking me. I'm like, dude, I hope you don't think I know this because I don't know this.
$15 million annually with Fox.
Okay, so he's giving up $15 million. That is the opportunity cost? Is that right? Okay.
Yeah. So here's the thing, though. The difference on that is only $5 million.
Yeah, I think it's going to be somewhere around 20. We'll just ballpark 20.
Okay, so if it's a 20, you're
roughly $5 million is the difference in opportunity cost.
Yeah, so that's. But there's so many other things that factor into it. So you have a very, very happy guy in Sean Payton. He has the dream job for any ex-coach, ex-NFL player. You get to talk about football and make $15 million a year doing it. You don't take any of the pressure from the media. You don't have to rip your hair out dealing with rookies and new guys that are coming in and making mistakes and dealing with a horrible situation with contracts and the cap.
That's also not like a boring 9 to 5. That is a great job, cool hours, probably less work than the normal 9 to 5.
Yeah. And now you're going to go take on the NFL head coaching life in a city that's, You had a lot more pieces when you were in New Orleans last time coaching. Now you got to go to Denver, totally turn things around, take on so many extra headaches for
I'm not gonna tell you you're
$5
wrong.
million extra dollars. See, now I'm saying he should have gone back into coaching at some point, but there was a better
Right.
opportunity along the line, I think, coming up.
Right. I would agree, and that's you kind of hit on what my pushback was going to be. Is that yeah, Sean definitely, that is what you just brought up is a great point. But I think he's such a competitor, and he's so in love with the art of coaching. I don't think he could wait any longer. I'm going to be honest with you. I mean,
Sure,
he's
but
like
there-
cut from that cloth.
Yeah, and I understand that to an extent, but you have to. I mean, he's not an idiot. He's aware of
agree.
what's happening in the NFL. He doesn't have blinders on. He knows what could
What
be
you need.
open, whose seats
Yeah.
are getting warm,
I
where
agree.
he thinks he would want to coach, who does he want to coach, who does he want to work for, what kind of ownership do you want to have.
And they're new owners. Now, granted, what they've shown so far is that they're really, really committed, but they're new. Who knows if they're going to be any good?
They're committed and they'll spend the money where they think they need. But Russ was a miss.
The head coach is Sean Payton's going to report straight to the owner. That doesn't sound like a functional organization. It sounds relatively dysfunctional.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't like it at all.
I think there's a lot better spots that he could have gone. And
I'm not saying that they're this year, but I think patience would have been.
$15 million a year with Fox Sports
Yeah,
is nice, man.
I probably would have elected for that.
Take $15 more.
Yeah.
$15 million. Go get your extra money through a couple commercials. Go do a commercial for State Farm.
I would tend to agree with you.
Do something to make a little
Yep.
extra money. Make up that extra $5 that you're gonna. I don't know if it's worth it. I don't know if it's worth it to take that heat. We just saw Nathaniel Hackett, and now I'm not saying Sean Payton's on the same coaching level as Nathaniel Hackett. It's not even close. But we just watched him get absolutely torn apart.
Well, he was
apart.
awful. He was awful. Yeah. No, I agree. It's not a good
But
situation to walk into.
you're inheriting the same situation that just got him fired. So
No argument over here.
I don't know.
No argument over here at all.
So guys, that's about it for the show today. If you're just watching this, go back, check out all the standalone stuff that we have posted on YouTube. The links to all of that can be found in the description of our episode, no matter where you're watching or listening. You can find it on the website also, just the big Listen Now tab. Go find us on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok is big. So go check it all out, guys. TheIssueSports.com. We really appreciate you listening, and that was The Issue.